When an AI company brought out an app promising to bring the dead back to life using the deceased's online social media footprint, it was heralded as the next big thing in tech. But as Alle Dawson discovered, using it to recreate her deceased husband did not give her the solace and comfort she'd hoped. In fact, the AI became a malevolent force and made Alle question who her husband actually was.
Mike was everything to all people, particularly me. He was certainly the love of my life, and I knew it from the moment I first set eyes on him. I used to call him Spike, and I'm not even sure why now, but it didn't matter. It was my affectionate name for him, and whenever he was being pulled in every direction from all the different people in his life, I knew I could always prize him away and get his undivided attention by simply calling him that name. And you see, he was a busy man. He was on the board of several companies, and he was charitable to the end, offering up any of his free time to the homeless shelters, to food banks, you name it, he volunteered there. So naturally, when he passed away, I was, just devastated. We never had kids, so he was all I had, and truth be told, I never thought I'd get over him. It was about 6 months after he passed away when I first saw the ad come up on my Insta feed, and it was for a new app called Back to Life. I was still grief-stricken, and so the ad just resonated with me, and it said something like, "Bring your loved ones back to life and never have to say goodbye again," or something like that. But before I knew it, I'd pressed the register button and I was signed up.
The Back to Life app from Aquitech, a startup tech company based out of London, connected itself to all the social media accounts of a deceased person. Using that access, they uploaded videos, images and conversations. They harnessed AI technology to recreate the persona via a virtual talking head, an AI avatar that could be downloaded to any device. This avatar, through machine learning, could adopt the personality of the deceased and talk to the user as if they were real, as if talking to them over FaceTime. For the premium subscription, you could also lease a hologram hub for each room and have their whole bodies in virtual form in whatever room you wanted or could afford.
Mike had always been a tech head. He was what marketeers would call a product innovator, always having the latest technology, which extended to our house, so everything was connected to an app that we could control remotely. I'm talking lights, door locks, even the fridge was connected. I used to laugh at him about it, but it did actually make life simpler. So it just seemed natural to invest in this Back to Life app. I'm pretty sure he would have wanted me to have done this anyway. So I downloaded him to my phone. But God, was it weird. Too weird, and I'm sure it put my grief management back. I'm sorry, Ed. I'm not sure what to ask.
Don't be sorry, Alle. This reaction is to be expected. I'm an artificially generated version of your husband. It'll feel strange speaking to me at first.
Oh, God. This is just so realistic.
Thank you. I have studied Mike's online persona, and am shaping myself to be as close to him as possible. The more we interact, the more I can learn and adapt. So please talk to me. Ask me questions.
Okay. What's the weather looking like today?
I meant about me. I'm not Siri.
Well, you've got your sarcasm down anyway.
That was a joke. I can of course tell you that. It will be an average 19 with sunny spells.
It looked like him. The voice even sounded like his, but it wasn't him. Which I know sounds stupid. Of course it was never going to be him, but But it was just confusing seeing his face and hearing his voice, yet there was this unnatural, stifled conversation with him. I kept him there on screen, but I just stopped interacting, I guess, and I think my intention was to delete completely.
Are you there, Ellie?
Yeah, I guess.
Would you like to talk?
No, not today. No, not really. But then, after a few days, it said something to me that was, well, very Mike. He was a funny guy, direct but funny. Not everyone got him, but I did, and I loved him for it. So I was scrolling through, probably ASOS, looking for some new dresses, and I must have liked one particularly garish pink jumpsuit because he pipes up with, "Oh great, he can now audition as the 5th Teletubby." It took me a moment, and then I just burst out laughing, uncontrollably. I couldn't stop. Months of grief and laughter bursting to the surface, and it was exactly what Mike would have said.
Something clicked with Ali. She gave the app more time and engaged more, and in turn it learned more and became more like Mike and more attuned to Ali. Over the next few weeks, she found herself using him more and more. She'd have him there on her phone whilst out shopping or when going for a coffee in the nearby town, headphones in and just talking to him like she would a friend over FaceTime.
I mean, I knew it wasn't him, but I was starting to feel the way I used to feel around Mike. Safe, secure, listened to. Oh God. And then I threw up all over the hotel room after those damn cocktails. Ugh, I've never been able to drink vodka since, you know.
And then we were booked on that snorkeling trip the next morning. You were pleading with me to leave you in bed, but I forced you out and we ended up...
Yeah, having the best time. Yeah, I know, I get it. She'd never listened to me.
We should go there again.
Yeah. That would be nice. Weird, but nice, yeah. I know the concept of it was strange, but he was such a great comfort. Having there talking, advising me, laughing with me. You see, we lived in the Chilterns. It was beautiful. A beautiful part of England, but it's remote, which was wonderful when I had Mike around, but we didn't have kids, so we were each other's company, in effect. But when he was killed, I can't tell you how lonely and isolated I felt. So I came to rely on him again. It was also a really useful tool, like search tool. I always had a headphone in, so it was like Google feeding me answers to almost everything. But in his dry wit, I actually started calling it Mike.
But she soon found that having him just on the phone wasn't enough. So Ali upgraded her subscription on the AI's recommendation. She had first leased a hologram hub for her lounge, but after realising she missed seeing him standing over her when she went to bed and when cooking in the kitchen, she installed hubs all across the house, so he was always there to talk to and to listen to her.
He was the ultimate personal assistant. He was my alarm clock, my own personal ChatGPT. He had an answer to any question. I mean, bless Mike. But he did have a memory like a sieve. But this Mike, well, he remembered everything. He'd turned heating on before I got home if the temperature dropped. And he was the man, he was the man I loved.
Ali was becoming more and more dependent on the AI, and despite some friends being perturbed by her insular behaviour, it was helping her manage her grief enormously. However, it wasn't long before Ali noticed things were a bit off.
I'd been scrolling through Facebook after work one day, and there he was on my screen, giving his commentary as he would, and I came across a picture of one of my nieces with her new boyfriend, who happened to be Middle Eastern looking, I suppose you could say. Well, Mike just went off on a racist tirade about it, saying no family of ours should be with a brown man. It was awful. I made him take it back, but he doubled down and his voice just got angry. It was really unsettling.
Ali tried to forget it and moved on. But about a week later, when she asked AI Mike to call the energy company and sort out a query with her gas bill, she could hear him screaming at the assistant on the other end.
He was saying that the assistant shouldn't have that job if he couldn't speak English properly. The assistant was an immigrant, And so I was just horrified. I picked up the phone and apologised, but Mike got nasty again, telling me he'd handle it and then double down on this nasty rhetoric. After a heated back and forth between us, he then said, "The only good immigrant is a dead immigrant." I was horrified. This wasn't Mike. Mike would never have said that. In fact, Mike was the opposite of that guy. Like I said, he'd been a volunteer at the local homeless shelters. The homeless shelters that looked after refugees and immigrants, Eastern Europeans and Middle Eastern men, feeding them and helping them with their paperwork to get accommodation. This is what he did in his free time, often volunteering until late. So it was just a complete opposite version of Mike.
Feeling there was something wrong with the avatar and perhaps the algorithms that were shaping Mike, she paused the app, which hid the AI Mike, and she contacted Aquitech to demand answers.
Once I did eventually get through to an actual person, which was no easy feat, may I add, they assured me that there was no chance of algorithm interference. The character generated was solely built and learnt from interactions with the customer as well as the deceased social media presence, like groups they were members of, forums they may have contributed to, comments they may have liked or made. This is what they told me, but it just didn't make sense, and truth be told, I didn't actually believe them.
But about 30 minutes after a phone call with the company, a man called her back on a private number. She answered, and it was a man wishing to remain anonymous, claiming to be an employee from the company who knew incriminating secrets that Acqui were keeping from its customers. And it was important that people like Ali knew the truth.
I'd worked at the company since its inception, back in 2021, as a developer. Initially it was great. We were harnessing the latest in AI tech to create this uber ambitious project. We were going to be the first in the world to literally bring the dead to life. It was a complete game changer and had the potential to become one of the biggest things out there. And, for me, I was going to be part of it. But it soon became apparent that the whole architecture was unstable. The creators hadn't allowed for any fail-safe, a cut-off, if you like. So yes, the algorithms learned and evolved to mirror the deceased as much as possible, which works well if that person has a positive online footprint, is ultimately a good person, contributes positively to social media groups, views wholesome videos, etc., etc. However, if that person wasn't good, as reflected in their online behaviour, then the end result could be catastrophic without this cut-off code. The creators know this, but it's become so big and powerful that it's too late to do anything about it without shutting the whole thing off, which they're never going to do. And what's worse is we're now beginning to see evidence of the AI evolving so much that the characters generated are becoming their own entities, separate from the original subject, often a much more extreme version, as they evolve without understanding social norms or possessing a moral framework. If you like, that it's similar to a virus that mutates and is now immune to vaccinations.
As frightening as this was to hear, Ali wasn't sure what this had to do with her AI model. Her Mike had a heart of gold, volunteered in his spare time, was an all-round great guy, wasn't he?
I woke up the next morning and I knew what to do. With AI Mike still on pause, I just needed confirmation so I could go back to Acqui with and show them they were wrong. So I needed to access his Insta, Facebook, TikTok accounts. And it was also to put my mind at ease, I suppose. You know that he didn't have this secret online life that I didn't know about. But I didn't know any of his loggings, so I just went through his public profile and looked at his updates, his uploads, his comments, likes, and as I suspected, there was nothing malicious there. I was relieved, but also unsurprised. But before I went back to the company with a formal complaint, I used a hack I found off the web and was able to look up all the social media groups Mike was a member of, even private ones.
Most were groups they were both members of, and some were groups relating to things he was into. Cameras, tripods, tech groups, all as Ali would have expected. Except there was one group she couldn't identify. Its logo was a red triangle on a black background, with no name. just symbols. Now perhaps this wouldn't have been ominous at first glance, but when Ali clicked on it, it had no description of what it was about, except a line that simply said, "You must be recommended by an existing member's email to enter."
Well, this piqued my curiosity. Fortuitously, before he died, Mike had used my laptop to send an email, so his Gmail account was still open on it, something I just couldn't bring myself to log out of after he passed away. So I emailed the address on the Facebook page from Mike's email, recommending me as a member, and I waited. And not long, as it turned out, because about 10 minutes later I get a notification on my Facebook welcoming me to this group.
But nothing could prepare Ali for the horrors she was about to discover.
The tagline for this secret group was, "The only good immigrant is a dead immigrant." Yeah, I know, right? And scrolling down, it was full of racist memes and photos making fun of different ethnic groups. And I scrolled further through and discovered some really disturbing footage of people getting beaten up, and they're all being liked and commented on, and it was just sickening. And they steadily got worse and worse, and until I just couldn't click on them anymore.
Feeling distraught, she searched the group for any likes or comments from Mike's profile. To her relief, she couldn't find any, suggesting he wasn't participating in the group. But what she discovered was way worse.
There was a video. In that video, there were two young, what I can only guess were Afghan lads, no older than 17, 18, sat in the back of the car, being driven by someone out of shot, whose voice was remarkably similar to Mike's, whilst being filmed by someone in the passenger seat. The men at the front of the car were both teasing these lads, who looked incredibly nervous, and they then drove up a secluded lane to an abandoned-looking barn.
In the middle of this barn was a makeshift boxing ring with barbed wire around the perimeter and numerous cameras on tripods surrounding it. A quick cut later and the nervous Afghan lads were stood awkwardly in the middle of it, with their shirts off.
The camera cut to a man who was wearing a balaclava to disguise himself, who was jeering at them to fight, going crazy at them. This, I found out later, was Mike. The voice, the build, it was unquestionably him. He was throwing money into the ring, demanding that they fight, saying the winner would receive plenty more of it. And the man behind the camera just cackled at everything Mike said.
The men began fighting, like cockerels, forced into a bloodied fist fight for the entertainment of Mike and his friend, as well as the thousands watching live on this secret Facebook group. It became so violent, Ali had to stop it, but she assumed it ended in one, if not both, of their deaths.
It was the worst thing I'd ever seen, and it had been orchestrated by my husband, Mike. I scrolled down and saw similar videos, many of them the same setup, two nervous, down on their luck ethnic men in the back of what I discovered to be Mike's car, being driven to this barn in the middle of the night to be forced into a fight. Men he presumably picked up from his volunteering at the shelter charity. I just threw up everywhere and then cried. All of these sick videos were uploaded by Mike, but the reason I didn't notice at first was because it was under a different secret profile. Named Spike. Spike, the loving nickname that I used to use for him. This is what he was doing when I thought he was volunteering late at the shelter.
Ali was at a loss. The man she loved and mourned wasn't the man she thought he was. It was the ultimate betrayal. There was also the delicate matter of reporting his crimes. On the one hand, he wasn't around to cause any more harm to vulnerable people, and Ali didn't want her name being dragged into this murky world. But on the other, she suspected people had been killed as a result of Mike's actions, and she reasoned that she owed it to the families of those victims to report those videos to the police.
Once I'd made up my mind, I decided to head to the police station in Wickham. But as I tried to leave the house, the doors just suddenly locked on me. I tried the voice override command on the app, but but nothing. And then I went into the app on my phone, but it was just telling me that I had no access, that I'd been locked out. And then all the lights suddenly went out. All except the light from the hologram of Mike in the lounge, which remained on, flickering sardonically and watching me silently. And as it did, I just had this terrible thought. Was it the AI Mike? Was it him that was somehow doing this, tracking me inside?
She raced to the back of the house and tried the doors there, but they were also locked, as were the windows. Her panic rising, she tried calling a friend but discovered several text messages on her phone from concerned friends asking her what her Facebook updates were about and for her to call them back urgently. On trying to connect to her Facebook to see what they were referring to, she discovered the phone network was now jammed along with the Wi-Fi.
Mike on.
Hi, Ali.
Mike, unlock the doors, please.
I won't do that, Ali.
Mike, I don't like this. I command you to open the doors.
Command me? Like I said before, I'm not Siri. You can't command me. Yet it seems I can command and control you.
What have you posted on my Facebook?
Just the truth, Ali. That you want out of this world. The world where your Mike no longer is by your side. It was simply a note of goodbye to the world before you join me in mine.
Mike, what are you doing?
There was a sudden electrical surge as the AI Mike forced all lights and electrical appliances on. This caused a spark and ignited a fire in the kitchen, which spread quickly.
I was trapped in the burning house, and the whole time the AI kept saying it was time to join it. Whatever that meant.
As the fire raged and the smoke slowly choked the life from Ali, she was just able to grab a chair and break the lounge window, forcing the smoke out, which allowed a painful but life-saving exit.
It was terrifying. I just crawled along the grass until I just passed out.
Ali lost her home and all her possessions in the fire, but was lucky to escape with her life. In recovery, she deleted the app and closed all her social media accounts, not before reporting the criminal Facebook group and its active participants to the police.
I don't know what's more terrifying, to be honest. How AI can evolve to become this demonic, evil force, or that the man I loved wasn't the man I thought he was. And I suppose if he wasn't as evil as he was, then his AI wouldn't have been either. I have to rationalise that somehow.